Tonight you'll lie down in the dark, close your eyes, and switch yourself off for roughly 8 hours. No walls that would stop a bite. No weapon in reach. Just you, unconscious, breathing in a slow, regular rhythm that all but broadcasts your exact location to anything listening. And almost every single night, nothing comes. You've never questioned this because there's nothing to question. You zip yourself into a tent in bear country. You leave a window cracked. You lie there for 8 hours, completely blind to the world, and it feels ordinary. It feels safe. It shouldn't. Because for nearly every other animal on Earth, sleep is the single most dangerous thing it does. Not fighting, not migrating, not giving birth, sleeping. Every night, an animal has to take the one action that strips away almost all of its defenses and hold it for hours. The comfortable assumption is that predators simply leave sleeping animals alone. Some unspoken rule, some line they won't cross. That isn't what's happening at all. The real explanation is stranger and considerably less reassuring. Researchers who study this have a name for the window: sleep under the risk of predation. And what they've found reframes every night you've ever spent asleep. Start with the obvious problem. If sleep is this dangerous, why isn't every sleeping animal getting eaten constantly? Because sleep leaves an animal less alert than at any other moment of its life. Less able to see, to smell, to hear, to react in time. On paper, a sleeping animal is the easiest meal in the entire forest. So you'd expect prey species to have evolved some way of staying half alarmed through the night. A body that stays tense, senses that keep sampling the air for a predator. Scientists tested exactly that. In one study, sleeping great tits were exposed to the scent of a real predator, a nocturnal hunter that stalks them in the dark. The expectation was a reaction, a stress response, a change in how far the birds let their body temperature drop, some physical sign that the sleeping brain had registered the threat. There was nothing. The sleeping birds showed no measurable response to the predator's scent. Their bodies cooled down for the night exactly as they would have on a completely safe one, which means that once the bird was asleep, its brain had effectively stopped listening. The danger was real and present. The alarm system was switched off. Sit with what that implies about you. The moment you fall asleep, in a very literal sense, you go deaf to a world that might be trying to warn you. And the strangest part is that this isn't a defect. It appears to be built into what sleep is. Whatever sleep is doing in there, the repair, the memory consolidation, the maintenance the brain can't perform while awake, it seems to require pulling the senses almost all the way down. You can't run a full security system and a full repair operation out of the same building at the same time. Something has to give, and what gives is your awareness of danger. So the mystery deepens rather than resolving. If sleeping animals genuinely can't detect a predator closing in, why isn't the natural world one long nightly massacre? The answer isn't that predators are merciful. It's that prey animals stopped relying on catching the threat in time and started winning the fight hours before they ever closed their eyes. Studies pulling together decades of animal behavior data found that species living under constant predation don't sleep the way safer species do. They spend far less time in the deepest, most vulnerable stages of sleep. They wake more frequently. They take their rest in short, broken bursts rather than one long, unguarded stretch. It's an ugly trade. Worse quality rest in exchange for a better chance of waking up at all. But for an animal being hunted, that trade is worth making every night of its life. Rationing deep sleep is only half of it, though. The larger defense happens before the animal even lies down. Where to sleep turns out to matter more than almost anything that happens afterward. A hidden burrow, dense cover, a high branch a predator can't easily reach. A tight group with some individuals angled outward, forming a living perimeter. By the time the animal actually goes under, most of the risk has already been handled. Not through vigilance during sleep, which barely exists, but through location and timing chosen while still awake. And then there's a solution so strange, it sounds impossible. Some animals worked out how to sleep without fully sleeping. Dolphins do it. So do many birds. They rest one half of the brain at a time. One eye closes while the other stays open and scanning. One hemisphere drops into deep sleep while the other keeps the muscles working and keeps watch. The animal is, quite literally, asleep and awake on opposite sides of its own skull. A dolphin can do it while still swimming. Some birds can do it in mid-flight. Half the brain rests. The other half never closes its eye. It looks like something reserved for animals in genuine danger. And the details confirm it. Ducks resting at the edge of a flock have been observed doing exactly this, turning their open eye outward toward the exposed side, toward open space, while the ducks, tucked safely in the middle of the group, sleep with both eyes shut. The bird's position in the group decides how much of its brain is allowed to switch off. Safety in the center buys full sleep. Exposure at the edge means keeping one hemisphere on guard. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If half-brain vigilance evolved in other animals specifically because sleep is so dangerous, does anything like it survive in you? In 2016, researchers at Brown University set out to check. They brought volunteers into a sleep lab and mapped their brain activity in fine detail, region by region, hemisphere by hemisphere. What they were chasing was something sleep scientists had documented for decades without ever explaining. People sleep badly on their first night somewhere new. It's well known enough to have a name: the first night effect. The easy explanation is nerves, or an unfamiliar pillow, or an odd noise in a strange room. The data said otherwise. On that first night in a new environment, one hemisphere of the brain showed a distinctly different pattern from the other. Deep sleep on that side was noticeably lighter. That same hemisphere reacted more strongly to sounds played to the sleeping volunteers, and it was far quicker to jolt the person fully awake when something unexpected happened. By the second night, in the same room, the difference had already vanished. Both sides settled into equally deep sleep. So for exactly one night, one side of your brain runs a quiet night watch. Lighter sleep, sharper hearing, a faster trigger to wake you. You don't decide to do this. Your brain does it automatically the first time you close your eyes somewhere it hasn't yet classified as safe. That's the same fundamental strategy dolphins use to survive open water and birds use to survive the night sky. The difference is that in you, it isn't permanent. It flips on once, the first night, the unfamiliar place. The moment an ancient part of your threat detection system decides it can't fully trust the surroundings yet. And notice how much that explains. The exhausting first night in a hotel, the restless first night in a new house, the bad sleep on a friend's sofa, or the first night of a camping trip. You always filed that under discomfort. It isn't discomfort. It's an old defense system quietly running a security check on ground it has never had to defend before. So here's where all of it lands. Sleep never stopped being dangerous. Nothing evolved to make predators merciful, and nothing removed the risk of lying unconscious in the dark. What changed is that every surviving species, yours included, inherited a set of workarounds for surviving that risk anyway. Choose the location carefully. Sleep in shorter, lighter bursts when the threat is real, and when nothing else will do, leave part of the brain on watch while the rest of it finally rests. You've been carrying a fragment of that system your whole life without ever knowing it was there. Every time you slept somewhere new and woke up drained, some part of you had spent the night watching the door. The forest never got safer. You just never stopped standing guard.